Hello YouTube, welcome to Tuesday's edition of The Breakfast Club. I'm Got That Funk, thanks for joining me. Apologies for not being here yesterday. Since Friday I've been moving house from my old flat into this much smaller abode. I live with a family, a young couple and their daughter, and so it's going to be a complete change of lifestyle for me in every sense. In some ways for the better and in some ways not so much, but that's just the way the cookie crumbles, as they say. Anyway, I wanted to address Joe's video from Sunday. Joe obviously gave us his swan song on The Breakfast Club and went out with a 25-minute video, which was fairly critical of different aspects of YouTube and online communities in general, and of The Breakfast Club in particular. Now, it's my opinion, and I hope that I'm right, that everybody on The Breakfast Club, both guest hosts and regular hosts who felt that some of Joe's criticisms might be directed at them, I think we're all adult enough to sort of take that on the chin and not just dismiss it out of hand without some serious consideration, and that's certainly true here. Joe's someone whose opinion I value very highly, and he's so thoughtful, and when you watch his videos, his delivery is such that if you take his video as a whole, you know, by the time you get to the end of it, it packs quite a wallop. It's a gift that Joe has for making videos, and I'm sorry to see him go on The Breakfast Club, of course. But when Joe started on The Breakfast Club, it was supposed to be just for a few weeks while we were waiting for Peach to come back, but sadly I don't think Peach is going to be coming back to The Breakfast Club. As far as I know, she hasn't had a computer for ages worthy of making videos on, plus she's due to have a baby in a few months now, so I think she's got more than enough on her plate. Anyway, back to Joe's critique of The Breakfast Club and of my behavior in terms of my role as the organizer on The Breakfast Club. Now, Joe's absolutely right when he says that he's aware that I don't want to let The Breakfast Club become an echo chamber, and that is a serious concern of mine, and that almost totally explains why I get guest hosts who have wildly different opinions to mine or any of the other any of the other regular hosts on The Breakfast Club. I think it's important to mix dialogue up and to allow in lots of different voices from different angles. I don't necessarily think it is me being taken advantage of. I do understand, Joe, where you're coming from. And the phenomenon you're talking about definitely exists to a certain degree and with certain people who shall remain nameless. Having said that, I'm used to it, man. There's a good side and a bad side to a lot of things, most things. And the good side of being a nice guy is, you get an awful lot of friendships, and, you tend to enjoy life pretty well. But the bad side about being a nice guy is people will inevitably take advantage of you. And Joe, this has been the case for me for pretty much my entire life, way before I ever started on YouTube. And since I have been on YouTube, there have been the occasional characters, once or twice, who have taken advantage of my good nature. And that is probably true on The Breakfast Club as well. Having said that, with The Breakfast Club anyways, what y'all don't know is I'm also taking advantage of them. I see it as a quid pro quo. I think it's perfectly fair, and my attitude is, if people are going to engage dishonestly, hopefully that is self-evident, and therefore people can take that for what it's worth, and when they judge the rest of their commentary, they can keep in mind that they're not really approaching the discussion from an honest perspective. Now, I don't really see myself as a skeptic, Joe. I don't think anyway that the critique in your video about the skeptic community and people who call themselves skeptic, I don't really think you were necessarily thinking of me in that commentary. But just in case, I'm going to say it for the record, skeptic is not a label that I put any value on. I've never really heard anyone apply it to me, and I certainly don't really apply it to myself. If I had to describe my own thought process with a single word, skeptic wouldn't really be it. I would call myself considerate. I think about stuff, but I'm not necessarily skeptical. Sometimes I start with a conclusion and then try and prove myself wrong, which is not how skeptics or critical thinkers really behave. Sometimes I just go by my intuition, and I allow my intuition to basically be a dormant decision until something better comes along and kicks it off the spot. Something like logic or truth would do it. But sometimes I'm quite happy. I'm quite comfortable sort of just making up my mind using my intuition. I don't have a problem with that. So I think the word skeptic doesn't really apply to me, and my critical thinking skills are not anywhere near what I think they could be if I really wanted to be more of a critical thinker and wanted to use my gray matter for something a little bit more constructive. Now this brings me on to a comment on Joe's video that I got from Galen. Actually, the comment wasn't directed to me, at least as far as how it was addressed, but his second comment in particular, I'm relatively certain was more or less totally directed at me. And it's a comment that I would like to share. Now, Galen and I have been acquainted on YouTube even longer than I've known Joe. I met Galen, I think I had been on YouTube. I think I met Galen before I even had 100 subscribers. I hadn't been on YouTube very long at all when we started having conversations. And I've told Galen before that his opinion is one that I value. I don't necessarily think that he believes me when I say that. And if you think I'm being disingenuous, Galen, when I say that, that's on me. And I accept that. That's not on you. If I'm less engaging than you expect me to be or would think I ought to be, that's on me. And I find it sad, though. In your comment, you said that you feel invisible on this channel, that you won't even be acknowledged. And that is definitely on me as well. Now, about a year and a half ago, most Breakfast Club viewers won't know this because it happened after the fact, but Sketchy White Dude did a lovely video for his Christmas video, the very first year of the Breakfast Club. And Galen was quite disappointed that it had like a total of 4 comments on it, and he was thinking, what the fuck, man, this is supposed to be a dialogue channel and none of the other clubbers have even sort of referenced this beautiful video that you've done. And I mean, the comment was fair enough as far as it goes. And Galen expressed in his commentary to Sketchy White Dude that he didn't really approve of the way that I ran the Breakfast Club channel. And I replied to that comment in text, but I would like to discuss how I run the Breakfast Club, not just with Galen through this video, which I obviously will make him aware of, but with the rest of the Breakfast Club audience, because your opinions do matter to me up to a point. Obviously, this channel exists for the benefit of its content creators as well as for the benefit of its audience, and I don't necessarily prioritize the audience over the content creators or vice versa. I think it's all important. But my management style, if you want to call it that, is relatively loose, and deliberately so. The previous Breakfast Club channel that DevShell2 started, he basically rage quit. He closed the channel down. It all got to be a bit too much for him, and he just decided, you know what, fuck this, it's not really worth it. I'm not going to let that happen to me, and I'm not going to let that happen to this Breakfast Club channel. If, at some future date, the Breakfast Club channel that I've been organizing fizzles out, it will be because contributors leave and I can't replace them. It won't be because I decide to close down the channel. I don't want to do that. If I was going to quit the Breakfast Club, I would just hand it over to one of the other hosts and let them take over, which is what Rob probably would have done to the first Breakfast Club. Had I let him know that I was willing to take over the reins, he probably would have said, okay, here you go. But that opportunity didn't present itself, so I decided to start this one up on my own with Rob's blessing. Anyway, I digress. The point is, I'm not going to let this channel or my YouTube experience in general be a negative one for me. Back in 2009 and 2010, when my channel was flourishing, my own channel on YouTube, part of the reason it flourished was because I was able to take my computer with me to work, and I could spend an awful lot of time monitoring my comments and responding to people and coming up with different ideas for making videos. I used to make on average 10 videos a week back in those days. Now I don't even do 10 videos a month on my channel. It's something I really regret. I've been focusing more over the past 2 or 3 months on the Breakfast Club channel and trying to make sure that the seats are full, and so on. And that's pretty much where I see my role on the Breakfast Club. Now, I am nobody's boss, and I've made this very clear in the Declaration of Independence video right at the very beginning of this channel, as well as to all my hosts when they sign on to be a Breakfast Club regular contributor. I'm not your boss. I am an organizer at best. I'm not even the captain of a ship, as it were. People come to me if they want to find out if it's okay for them to talk about this topic or that topic or whatever. They just want to check that it doesn't break the rules. And, you know, that's pretty much how I see my role. My role is to keep the seats full, to keep the lights on, and to be there to sort of reassure and, you know, make sure that everybody is comfortable with the way that the things are going. Obviously, Joe wasn't comfortable with the way the channel was going. And Joe, you mentioned, you know, that you seem to think that I'm struggling to find some sort of middle ground by not attaching myself to any one particular direction. And you know, with respect, my friend, that's a misapprehension on your part. I don't really seek a middle ground. You know me, mate. I'm a cocky fucker. As far as I'm concerned, my opinions are usually right. That's how I think. I think that's how most people think. Most people wouldn't have opinions if they didn't think they were right. So, you know, and I am way to the left of most people that I'm acquainted with on the internet and in person. That's just my own philosophy. You know, so I don't really have any value. I don't place any value on the center, and I don't necessarily think that the Breakfast Club channel is meant to have a particular direction. From my point of view, having a variety of different opinions circulating means that it's going, the center is always fluid, as it were, in the discussion, and that's how I want it to be. But yeah, it's important to me that people feel comfortable disagreeing, and Joe touched on the fact that you know, one of the rules of the Breakfast Club is that you're not supposed to get personal, and that's absolutely true. And that's something that I think we would all benefit from in online discussions in general, whether it's on YouTube or Twitter or Facebook or any place else. You know, if someone says something and you think it was ridiculous, you know, take task with what they said, but you don't have to get personal with your insults. I think Joe was critical with his video on Sunday without getting personal, and in that regard, I think he shows us how easy it can be to do that. I have always tried on YouTube to do that, to take that approach. You know, it's only when someone gets personal with me first that I will get personal with them. I never ever draw first blood, and I think that's how it really ought to be, just as a general rule. But I'm not the enforcer on the Breakfast Club. Now, in his comment on Joe's video, Galen repeated the criticism he had from a year and a half ago, which is that, you know, there are some people on the Breakfast Club who don't seem to acknowledge the existence of other people on the Breakfast Club. And insofar as he's correct, I mean, that's not true for everybody on the Breakfast Club, but insofar as he's correct, he's got a point. Having said that, I'm nobody's boss. I'm not going to sit here and say we should all be commenting on everyone else's videos. I'm not going to say that. I want people to interact. I want people to engage with one another, but I'm not going to enforce it. I'm not going to insist on it. Everyone knows what the status quo is. Everyone knows, you know, what the aspiration is, and people can behave as they choose to behave. As far as I'm concerned, we're all adults. The topic is up to everybody what they want to talk about. Even when we did a round robin a few weeks ago and Joe decided he didn't want to talk about that topic, I didn't give him any crap for that. As far as I was concerned, it was against the spirit of a round robin, but at the same time, Joe's an adult. And JJ, who Joe ought to have been responding to, was also an adult. And, you know, adults should be able to disagree or to opt out of a conversation without taking shit for it or being disparaging about doing so. So, but, you know, getting back to the point Galen was making to me, you know, it's a fair criticism as far as it goes. That, you know, not everybody is engaging with everybody else on the Breakfast Club. Having said that, like I say, I don't necessarily think that it should be seen as a requirement. People should only watch the videos that they want to watch. They should only engage with the comments that they want to engage with. That's it to me. Maximum freedom, responsibility is up to the person in question. Now, I make a point. I don't necessarily make a comment on every single Breakfast Club video, but well over 90% I make a comment on, and that includes my guest host videos. Sometimes I don't make a comment. I'm either too busy to make a comment, but I watch every single Breakfast Club video, and I don't always comment, but so close to always that I think it's not really fair criticism if you're saying that I'm not doing that, if you think I'm not engaging. And in his comment, Galen said, people like me will go, oh, well, that's not me, it's other people. And it's true. It's true. Because it's true, it's a fair comment, okay? I am not anyone else's boss on The Breakfast Club. And I refuse to let this job, this role, I should put it that way, bring me down. YouTube is a hobby. None of us on The Breakfast Club are getting paid for being here. Everybody who's a guest contributor or a regular contributor does so because they choose to do so, they want to do so. And how active they are or are not in the comment sections is also down to them and how much time they have and how much they want to do it. Now, you could argue that, why would I get someone if they're not going to be more engaging? I get people because I want to hear their commentary. I want them to be engaging with the audience members, absolutely, and with each other. I absolutely do. But again, I'm not going to lead anybody to the nose or admonish anybody for being less than perfect, because we're all less than perfect, and lots of us are very, very busy. But certain people do jump to mind who've been very, very engaging. Even after she left the Breakfast Club, Bionic Dance tends to make a comment on pretty much everybody's videos, and she always was on everybody's videos when she was a regular contributor here. Nathan Brendan Masters is another one who's pretty much commenting on almost everybody's videos all the time. So, there are people who do, there are people who don't. I'm not going to criticize anybody for being less engaging than those who are more engaging. We're adults. And because we're all adults, I don't think we should be holding each other up to some sort of imagined standard of what perfection ought to look like. That's just not how I roll in life in general. I don't expect people to be perfect. In fact, I expect quite the opposite. I expect people to be people. And I don't want anyone to expect me to be perfect. If Galen is uncomfortable with my management style, that's his prerogative, of course. And Galen, in your comment on Joe's video, you mentioned that you felt invisible on the Breakfast Club and that no one would ever reply to you. And I take that as a personal criticism against me. And to the degree that that's true, I'm very sorry that you feel that way. I'm particularly sorry that you feel that I don't value your opinion or your candor. And the reason I know that you don't take that seriously is I commented and said that I did value your opinion and respect your candor, and you replied unsubscribed. Now, I've seen videos over the years on YouTube where people say it doesn't really matter to me if someone unsubscribes. And whilst it's true that statistically speaking, losing one subscription doesn't really ripple the pond very much, I would be lying if I didn't say that there are some people whose subscription matters more to me than others. I mean, I would be absolutely devastated if the Peaceful Kingdom or the Green Machine decided to unsubscribe from myself or the Breakfast Club. I'd be devastated. These people and I go back years and years and years, and just knowing they're in my audience makes me happy. So yeah, and I would include Galen with that. Now, Galen, if you didn't take me seriously or didn't believe me, that's on me. That's my fault. I obviously have not successfully communicated to you something that I should have, and that's this. I value your perspective for this reason. You're way more well-read than me. You're smarter than me. You're logical in a sort of very detached. You have an ability to sort of detach your ego from your perspective, and that's something that I lack. And so I sort of use you, whether you realize it or not. I've used sort of you as one of my reality checkers. I've got a few of them, and they're not all the same in terms of the way they look at things, but they all have something in common, and that is they have a very logical, methodical way of thinking, which is not the way I think, and so I value those perspectives. Sarah Hano 6 is another person who falls into that category. I mean, he and I agree on an awful lot, and we also don't agree on an awful lot. But I never dismiss what he's got to say, ever. And the same is true for you, Galen. And if you felt that I do because I'm not more engaging, That's my fault. I apologize for that, and whether you accept my apology or not, that's your prerogative. I certainly don't expect you to resubscribe based on that apology, and I'm not going to ask you to resubscribe. We're all adults here. You don't want to watch, that's okay too. But I did want to respond to your comment and to your overall criticism from time gone by as well about how I run the channel. There's always room for improvement. I absolutely acknowledge that this channel, as well as my own channel, would benefit immensely if I had more time and energy to pour into it. But I'm a very busy person. I'm gone sort of between 13 and 14 hours a day at work. When I come home, my job is physical now, so I'm exhausted. And when you're exhausted, unfortunately, it's harder to collect your thoughts. And I don't really... Back when I had my body piercing studio, the opposite was true. I was relaxed and chilled, and I had all day to consider what I wanted to say in a YouTube video and so on. Those days are gone, unfortunately, but I still very much enjoy my YouTube experience and want to continue to enjoy my YouTube experience. So I'm going to end the video now. Again, Joe, sorry to see you go. Thank you very much for your months and months of contributions here on the YouTube, on the Breakfast Club. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in September, man. Galen, sorry to see you go. You can take that or leave it. Either way, it is what it is. Everybody else, I really look forward to hearing your thoughts. If you've got any criticisms of the Breakfast Club, if you've got criticisms of the way I run the Breakfast Club, anything at all, I'd love to hear it. So give it to me in the comment section down below. Nathan Brendan Masters will be here for tomorrow's edition of The Breakfast Club, and I'll see you again next week on Monday. Until then, thanks for watching, and may all your ups and downs be ups.